So we had a great time down here in Tampa. Unfortunately, the goal of finding a house here in Tampa did not go so well. You may not know this, but the housing market is insane. And here in Tampa, it is beyond insane. I'm sure plenty of you have experienced this. You know what I'm talking about. Your area is probably better or worse. I get it. We all know what's going on, but it's absolutely insane. The good news is we did find a house, but now we've got to find a rental for a while. So we're going to be moving here to Florida for a year in a rental here in the next month. But if you remember, it was about 1,000 miles down here. And just to show you how many houses I looked at in this week that we were down here, let me show you how many miles we now have on this trip. So as you can see, we pulled in at 999 miles. I have 2,338 miles on this trip now. So we drove more locally than we did getting all the way down to Florida from Indiana. So we're sitting at 230 watt hour per mile, which is down from when we got here. Of course, with local driving, that will lower our average, but we had a little bit of highway in there as well. Anyways, we have about 1,000 miles left to go, and I have plugged in home. So it says if we left right now at 11 p.m., we'd be there at 3:41 p.m. So basically, we're going to leave at 6 a.m. So minus 5 hours plus the 12-hour difference. Anyways, we should be able to make it home, I think, around 10:45 in the evening tomorrow if we do leave at 6 o'clock. You can see our charging stops. We've got 6 charging stops. And it looks like 35 minutes at one of them. And depending on time of day, we might stay that long. Otherwise, we usually like to split these up. It is a lot faster to charge at a lower state of charge than it is to charge really full. Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. You know that by now. So this route we are not going to take because my oldest son keeps getting car sick, especially in this route up here. It gets really twisty, and although it's fun, it is not so fun for him. So we're actually going to route through Nashville and then up to Indy. So if you are coming from Chicago or Indy or this route, basically, it does want you to cut through here, and you are off the highway all the way from here until you get down to basically Chattanooga. So it is about the same time to go to Nashville and over because you're on the highway the whole time. And this is a very twisty road. So if you have anybody that gets car sick or motion sick, something to think about. But before we dive into that, I do want to thank our sponsor for today, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where millions of people come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Some of the classes offered cover topics such as graphic design and animation, fine art, film and video, marketing. Skillshare classes include a combination of video lessons and class projects, and their classes are built to fit your schedule. So right now, I'm taking How to Take Pro Photos on Your iPhone by Dale McManus, and this course includes 23 lessons covering things from basics of setting up the shop all the way to how to optimize pano mode. So if you want to join me on this learning journey, the first 1,000 subscribers that click the link in the description will get 1 month free trial on Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today, and it's risk-free. So after a month, if you decide it's not for you, no problem at all. But if you do decide to stick around, it's only $10 a month to have a subscription to Skillshare. All right, so anyways, about 1,000 miles to go. We'll see if we make it at 6 a.m. as scheduled, but I'm pretty tired, so we're gonna do our best. I'll probably not look so great in the morning, but it is what it is. I'm very tired. I've had a long couple of days. So tomorrow we're gonna make this trip all the way back home, and hopefully if we leave on time and we're efficient with our stops, which is not gonna happen with 2 kids, and Mr. Murphy back here, wherever he is, he's out here hanging out with me tonight. It is not going to be super efficient, so as long as we get home before midnight, that'll be a win in my book. So we'll see how we do. I will pick this back up first thing in the morning, and we will hit the road. arrived at our first stop, Gainesville, at 7:39. We're right on schedule. Supposed to be here for 15 minutes, then to Valdosta, which is V3. This is a V2. So right now there are 5 people for 10 stalls. So as long as nobody else shows up, should be able to get out of here in about 15 or 20 minutes. Next stop, then it looks like home at 10:34 if this all stayed together. So still about 10:45 if we're lucky. So gonna go ahead and get plugged in now, and glad I got here when I did, because my wallet would not appreciate me going in there right now. All right, so we are charged up. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug a little bit early, 60%. We only have 104 miles to go. An hour and 26 minutes, should be there about 9:20. Gonna go ahead and unplug at 61%. Should arrive at 12%. That last leg was 112 miles, 39 kilowatt hours, 346 watt hour per mile. Unplugging now. All right, so we arrived at 11%, should be here for about 15 minutes. That last leg was 105 miles, 36 kilowatt hours, 343 watt hour per mile. We did lose a few minutes because somebody couldn't hold their bladder, but we're gonna get plugged in at the gas station, take the dog out so he can also relieve his bladder, and we'll get moving. Hey, buddy. You ready to go for a walk? Yeah. All right, well, we got plenty of charge, 54%. Should be able to make it to Cordell, Georgia with about 14%. Only 86 miles to go, an hour and 13 minutes. Should be there about 10:50. Unplugging now. All right, making great time. Arrived at Cordell, 10:45 at 16%. We actually had a tailwind, so it's interesting because if you look at our efficiency in that last leg, 314. Now we're still doing 80 miles an hour. So to hit that 314, I mean, we were around 300 for a big portion of that until it started getting a little hilly. So very interesting. So it must be reasonably windy outside, although it doesn't look like it. So anyway, supposed to be here for 25 minutes to get to Marietta, Georgia, which is 2.5 hours away. So we're gonna get out, stretch our legs, and get charged up. All right, so we are at 75%. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug just a couple minutes early. Should arrive at 9%. We have 155 miles to go. About 2 hours and 11 minutes, it says. Should be there about 1:20. I'm calling you now. All right, so we arrived 10% in Atlanta. I've never been at this charger, but it is like 30 V3 charging stalls, which is crazy. But anyways, we're supposed to be here for 25 minutes to get to Kimball. I had to manually add Kimball to our route to get it to route us through Nashville. So we're supposed to be here for about 25 minutes to charge to get to Kimball, Tennessee. So we're gonna go ahead and get plugged in and we'll get started. All right, so we're wrapping up charging. We did lose about a half an hour or so. I had to pull over and we had a couple of restroom breaks that the kids just couldn't wait. So we're looking at about 11:20 at the moment to make it home, and we're gonna switch time zones before the next charger. So we'll keep an eye on that, but we are at 70% now. Should arrive in Kimball with 11%. Should be about 2 hours, 140 miles. Gonna go ahead and unplug now. That last leg was 148 miles, 311 1 hour per mile. So unplugging now. All right, so due to traffic, we are not going to be able to go the way I really wanted to. We are going to have to go straight through Cookeville. So we are going to have to go straight north. There's a bunch of accidents all the way up through Nashville. So it gets us back on track, but that means we got to sit here at 45% and charge for 20 minutes. So that's what we're gonna do. It's in a Taco Bell parking lot. There's a few food options, but the boys and I and the dog are gonna get out and stretch our legs for a little bit. So let's get charged up for about 20 minutes. All right, so we are finishing charging, gonna round up to 80%. Should arrive about 11% in Cookeville for a 30-minute charge there. It is 156 miles, but it's 2.5 hours, and we're gonna go ahead and get unplugged and get rolling. So we've arrived at 7%. I drove probably a little bit faster, but that's why we consume so much more. I'm trying to make up some time here. That last stretch was 154 miles, 50 kilowatt hours consumed, 329 watt hour per mile. We're looking at 11:23, and that's quite an improvement. The traffic was looking ahead. It was going to be pretty bad, which is why we went this route. So I'm going to get plugged in. We're supposed to be here for 20 minutes, which isn't too bad. And then we will hit, it says Elizabethtown, but let's just take a look and make sure everything is fine. We should be able to also skip this charger in Indianapolis, so that'll save us potentially some time, but we're probably gonna, I don't know, we'll see. We'll plug in, charge, and try to go to Louisville instead of Elizabethtown. That's probably what we're gonna do. I'm gonna get some dinner while we're here anyways. There's a Jimmy John's grocery store, and pizza place is actually pretty good. So let's get plugged in and get rolling. All right, so we're finishing up charging, 85% on the horizon. I did get everything fixed, so we should be able to go straight to Louisville. We are not gonna charge into Indy. So when we get to Louisville, I will mess with the charging there. So this next stretch, almost 3 hours, 161 miles. It's a very twisty road, but we got to be careful so the little man doesn't get sick. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug now at 84%. All right, we arrived at our last charging stop at 18%. It's 9 o'clock. Supposed to be here for 25 minutes with a stop in Indy, but we're not going to stop in Indy. So I'm going to get plugged in and I'll get this all figured out and fixed. But for now, let's get plugged in. And I think there's some hungry folks in the car. And fortunately, there's a Meyer. So we'll go with that. Get our legs stretched out. All right, so we have plenty of charge. We're at 84%. Should arrive at 17. 146 miles, a little over 2 hours to go, so we will be home before midnight, but about an hour after what it predicted when we started this morning, which there were some delays along the way. So gonna go ahead and unplug at 84% and finish this trip up. That last leg was 162 miles, 47 kilowatt hours, 290 watt hour per mile. so we made it home last night about 11:45, so it was pretty much on time. Now, when we left, it expected us to get home at 10:45, so we lost an hour, and a half hour of that was because I had to stop and stretch my legs, and I was really tired. It was an exhausting week. House shopping sucks, and but we're still plowing through. We have a lot of plans. We've got a lot of things to do to try to make this work, but we are moving to Florida, and there's a lot of work to be done because the house is sold, and we've got to pack everything. But anyways, let's get back to the trip. So the last leg was 314 watt-hour per mile, 150 miles, 47 kilowatt-hours consumed. Now, for the whole trip, we did 3,312 miles, which is crazy. 1,059 kilowatt-hours and 320 watt-hour per mile, which is actually really good considering how full this car was. Actually, that might be one of my best consumption trips on a Model Y, because I do 80 miles an hour. So the faster you go, the more consumption. We do 80 miles per hour cruising, so 320 is really good. Now, that's probably averaged down with all the local driving that we did, but I was consistently getting pretty reasonable consumption on the way back home, except for the mountains. That's hit and miss. You can't really do anything about that. But overall, trip was great. On the way down, there were 5 of us in here plus the dog. It was very tight in here, actually. And one of the things I learned on this trip was if you are going to fill the car up with people, you do need to get soft luggage. So don't use roller bags. It takes up a lot of space. So I have a really large duffel bag that ended up working out perfect. I put it in the sub trunk, and then we put other soft bags in the front, and we were able to fit everything. It was snug though. So with that kind of a trip, that was a week long, all of our luggage, all of us, plus the dog, we ended up making it, and the dog did great, the kids did great, and we survived overall. Now, I did use the mobile connector at the Airbnb. It was just a 110 outlet, but we got about 1% per hour. So overnight, we would get about 10% of charge just sitting in the driveway. So even though that seems so small, that is very useful to have. Now, if we had a 1450 outlet, we'd get much faster speed. We'd have a full charge every morning. But that mobile connector is very important. And for those of you who are ordering cars now, it's not going to come with the car. They did lower the price of it though. So make sure you select that $200 mobile connector, because there are so many uses for it. Whether you're traveling, whether you're just going to visit family, it's really nice to have, because in some areas there's not as many chargers available. So having that mobile connector where you're staying is very helpful to have. So anyways, that's it for this trip. An amazing 3,300 miles, including the 1,000 miles we did locally. We actually drove more locally just looking at houses and losing houses than we did on either going down to Florida or coming back from Florida. So that's it for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, give it the thumbs up. If you haven't already, of course, subscribe to the channel as we continue to post content regularly. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BeardedTesla. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.